Hello everyone, welcome again to the Paranormal NightStalker. I am Joel Walling. Of course, with me is what's left of Michael Smith due to the fact of a nasty ass cold that has struck and ravaged him this week. We're just going to do a quick intro and check and make sure Michael is still breathing.
Barely.
So we just double checking on him, but just a quick little thing here because we have a long interview for you and we're trying to actually trim stuff down because, you know, we have been doing some marathons here in the past little bit where we've been hitting like the hour and a half on everything, like the 2-hour mark. And this interview went an hour and a half. And it is literally an hour and a half of us with Christopher. Okay, let's try that again. Christopher and Rachel Booth. I combined the two names. We have Christopher now. But they talked to us about just about everything. We talked about weather. We talked about music. We talked about setting on pianos. We talked about, and also got a lot of details off of the Booth Brothers' new project, The Attached, I think is what it was. Or Attached?
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, just a lot of information about it. And this is something that's just coming out. They haven't even finished filming it yet. It's really just was a great interview. Like I said, it went about an hour and a half. I was absolutely thrilled to have them for that time. You know, I know both are very, very busy people, and I was not expecting anything near that extent of how long they were on with us. But I was, you know, just thrilled to have them here for that time. And like I said, it was a great interview. We covered a lot of information, even going back into Christopher Booth's early days, touring as a touring musician and replacing Bryan Adams and Sweeney Todd, and you know, a lot of neat, interesting stuff that happened all through it. But like I said, we just wanted to come on, give a quick intro, and of course tell you some of the stuff that's going on with the rest of the channel. Is there anything you wanted to throw in before I started my cavalcading of shameless plugging? And I feel like we should break out like some circus music or something like that, because I feel like I feel like a juggler or something is like do, and I start into that because there's a lot to cover now.
Well, I'm barely breathing, so plug away.
All right. Well, happening on the network, across the network, we have, of course, Psychic Medium Sherry doing Portals of Enlightenment. Her new episode came out Wednesday, where she talked to Maria, who is a 25-year banking expert or experience in banking, talking about tips on saving money and money management. Another one that came out on Wednesday, of course, was Dark Side of the Paranormal with June Lundgren and Wendy Stanton. They talked to the UK arm of Ghost and Girls and gone into a little bit of what they've done over there, some of the places they've been and some of the places they want to go. There's actually one of them that was a nuclear fallout tunnel that they talk about, and that place sounds absolutely amazing. I'd love to go there and see that. Of course, coming out last night, we did have the live chat with Ryan Stacy on UCF After Chat. He does his live show on Facebook, and then after that, for about a half an hour, we come on and talk about a little about this and that. Last night, we were talking EM pulses and knocking out communications. Got a little bit into Project Blue Book, a little bit into recently unclassified documents, stuff like that. You could always go check that out. Of course, all of these are available anywhere you download podcasts. The first episode of Giving Up the Ghost has come out, and it is so far on fire. It is doing amazing, and if you want to check that out, of course, the first episode's already there. You can go to Giving Up the Ghost on Facebook. You can also, of course, find it on Spreaker or anywhere else you would look. I'm going to give a whole list of places you can find us at the end of all of this. She is now on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and all of that. It talks about the Hamilton House in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and this is really just a sit-down talk interview. The next episode that's coming up, she calls it the Ramblesode rather, and that's coming out this Monday. It's going to be just kind of random stuff, them talking about different places in Winnipeg and around the area, different folklore, different legends. Not one to miss, and like I said, this one is catching on fire right now. It really is. Of course, this Saturday, trying to keep everything straight in my head, we have on Paranormal Crossings Into the Unknown, we have the one of the experts, foremost experts in the Queen Mary. Nicole actually sits down with Aaron and they talk a lot, giving a lot of details about the Queen Mary, what's been reported to be the most haunted ship in the world. That is, and that's another one that actually went long. There was so much information, could not squeeze that into the hour format. I think they ended up going close to an hour and a half on that one, maybe a little bit longer. So, I mean, that's another one that just, there was too much to try to squeeze in, and they just kept going. We just turned off the timer, said, go for it, have fun. I almost forgot, of course, Bigfoot and Company have a little update. They haven't really done an episode, but they did a little half an hour update on it, and of course the Scary Cast. We have 2 different episodes out for the Scary Cast. For those of you who might be following that one, it also does a little bit of a conglomeration type show. It doesn't just cover like paranormal horror, that kind of, but it goes into like film, and of course one of the hosts on it is Papa Stro, or one of the co-hosts rather, is Papa Stro with Dr. John. He is a professional wrestler, and they cover a little bit of that, go into that too. So, one of us with his birthday episode, but then they did have part 2 of their Planet X series, which was a round table. Again, featuring, I believe his name is Marshall Masters. And that has been really one of the things. I haven't even actually had the time to sit down and listen to that. I did listen to the first one, and it's the one I'm kind of excited to hear. It's out available now. All of these podcasts are available on iTunes, Podcast Addict, Google Play, Stitcher Podcast. So, of course, right here on Spreaker, TuneIn, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google. I've already said Google. But actually, I'm working on a thing with Google Play, or Google Plus rather, to where all of the podcasts will be put on that. But if not, you can also follow us on Twitter at NightStalker Pod, or Facebook looking up NightStalker Pod. They will always be updated there. And of course, for you people who would prefer it in YouTube fashion, you can go over to YouTube. We do have NightStalker. The NightStalker Podcast Network does have a YouTube page, and everything is uploaded there. Every time a new episode's available, it's automatically put to those things. And for the rare few that were not on Tumblr looking for pornography, we are also on Tumblr. But if you're looking for pornography, you're not going to find it on there. But we do have a Tumblr page, if that's more your style. Basically, anywhere you want to find us, we are there. I'm also in the process of setting up a Reddit. I don't know if it's a page or whatever they call it now. I haven't really dealt with Reddit. But anyway, like I've said, Michael being half dead and me being half a brain, I think we should just probably say our goodbyes. Again, we're not going to be coming back after it. We're just going to play the interview. You can listen to it and be done with the whole show. And I guess that's about all we got to say for the week. Next week, we are going to be bringing what is the bench breaking broads?
Yes.
The bench breaking broads will be with us next week. We had some weird stuff going on with that interview. I don't know any other way to put it. We had some weird stuff happening with that interview. And sadly to say, I would like to have, this would be the 3rd time with them. Because the first time, we had a power outage and I was not able to be there for the recording, and the power didn't come on until much later, so I was kind of like, oh crap, and I felt like crap about it, even though I couldn't help it. I just felt like crap about it. The, next time, like I said, we had some weird stuff going on in that recording, and it threw me out of the interviewer hosting mode, and I went in thinking, oh crap, is this a technical glitch on my end? So I went into working on my computer, and I dropped the ball on the interview. I'll be the first to admit it. It was still a decent interview. The girls are amazing. I think they're just a great team, and it's one we want to have on again because I think we could do it better. I could be better. I think they were great, but I was subpar. Like I said, I got thrown for a loop when that happened, and I just totally lost track of everything. And we did end up pulling it back together. Like I said, we did get an interview out, and it was an all right interview. And like I said, the bench breaking broads, I thought they were great. We did get, 2 of them were actually sick, and that makes me feel even worse about everything that was going on because they have, the strep throat.
I think so.
And yes, they had strep throat, and they were able to pull it together more than I was when I got thrown the loop with the computer. Of course, coming up, also, if you are listening to this, as it comes out tonight, you can also see us. We are going to be going live on Facebook, facebook.com/paranormalbc. PNBC will be doing a live stream tonight. I will be there. Right now, it looks like we're actually going to be looking into an app that, not next week, but I believe on the 11th, we're actually going to be interviewing the app developer here. I am going to I'm going to download the Witch app. It's done by Brian Holloway. We're going to be testing that out, and we're going to actually have a special guest with us tonight, live on or in-house with us. She's going to be working with pendulums. Her name is Tammy. She's going to be bringing pendulums and tarot cards. So we've got a lot of stuff planned for tonight. First time ever having a live guest with us in-house with Paranormal BC. But if you're listening to this now, that is happening right now. Because this is going to be coming out at 8. That's going to start at 8. So if you're listening to this, you can actually jump over to Facebook and see all of this live as it's happening. And I promise it not to be as much of a clusterfuck as what's normally seen here. It's usually kind of about on the same page. It's usually about the same level of catastrophe and fucking as here.
Except most of your guests on there are dead.
Yeah, that's one thing. This is the first living guest ever to be, actually, for the first living guest for us ever to talk to. And that'll be great. I was trying to think, but actually, like I said, Brian Holloway will be, the week of the, February 11th. And so help me God, I don't remember if it's before that or after that. We are going to be having DNA Paranormal from England. Of course, Brian is also from England, but DNA Paranormal is from England, and they've recently got on our radar off of a great video they did for YouTube debunking, was his name Steve Huff? I know it's Huff Paranormal, but his name's Steven, isn't it?
I think so.
Alright, so Stephen Huff from Huff Paranormal, they debunked the hell out of him, call him right out, right up front. This is how he does it. That video has been one of my favorite things I have seen, probably in the history of YouTube. And I cannot wait to talk to them. We're going to have them live on the show, not live, well, pre-recorded live, coming up next month. So like I said, our time is still going, and we're romping right now. So, without further ado, I bring you Christopher St. Booth and Rachel Marie Booth. Then from Spook TV, Sci-Fi Network, they've done Children of the Grave, Soul Catchers, Death Tunnel, The Haunted Boy, or I think it's The Possessed Now or something like that. They actually go into a little bit about that. When another company ended up buying the distribution rights to it, they changed the name of it. And they go where you can find their stuff. I didn't know that anything you buy from them off Spook TV, they will sign, which is freaking awesome. If I'd known that, I'd been ordering, I'd been ordering as much as I could, but a lot of the stuff I had to get off of Amazon, just off Amazon secondhand. Because a lot of some of their stuff they do actually sell out and aren't, and like it's done once it's gone. So go to spooktv.com and hit them up for some stuff, and I hope you enjoyed the interview, and we'll tune in next week. And until then, this is Joel Walling signing off for the half-dead Michael Smith. We will see you then.
Well, her beauty is going to join us, so there you go.
All right. Yeah, it's like I said, just figured kind of go with everything, just give it a little bit of a history going to what, because I know both of you, it's like, I had to take a double breath to make sure I can get all of the stuff that you both do right now, and you got the
I know,
music.
you know what? You know what? It's getting even more crazy. We're doing even more stuff now. So.
Oh, wow, even adding more to it. Huh?
Okay, well, Rachel has sat down beside me, going to pour her heart out.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
This is Joel and Michael.
Hey,
Yeah, I wasn't sure who I was getting in on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I figure I would welcome both of you on. You know, like I said, both of you, well, I know my first experience with you, Rachel, was from Dead Still. So, and it kind of brings it all into the same thing. And like I said, then I started following you and the different stuff that you've been doing and the modeling and then the photography with Christopher and back and forth and everything. And it's just, it all kind of encompasses the same thing. It's like, I guess you'd say it's kind of like the booth industry, you know, the music and the modeling, the photography, the filmmaking, just everything else. It's all part of the same universe.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like the Marvel universe. When you think it's done and over with, there's something else that pops up.
Yeah, actually, I watch constantly, and I'm I'm seeing, like I said, the new photo shoot you're doing, where you can even like incorporating like vampires and stuff like that with it. That's a really cool idea, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really saw the potential in Christopher's photography and all that he does, and I felt that he needed to expand more on his talents. And so when we got into that, things just kind of grew from there. And the potential of using his amazing photography in different avenues is almost endless on my end. I'm always finding new ways of using it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's one of the things that actually caught my eye with the way. Actually, I guess before I get into too much, like I said, I'm sorry this is going to be a little bit unorganized because I am a fan. Normally, I've talked to some big people in this. I've talked to the Ghost Adventures people. I've talked to the Ghost Hunters people, and it's been like, oh, cool. You know, not to put anything down with them or anything like that, but this is the first time I've actually talked to somebody that I'm actually a fan of, where everybody else is just kind of like, oh, okay.
Thank you. That means a lot to us.
you won't believe when he got you booked on the show the other week. I was on Skype with him, and he's like, "You want me for a guy? You want me for a guy? Well, who'd you get?" You know, and he was like fanboying out on me for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was actually it got to be a little embarrassing. I was just like, okay, calm down now.
Well, I'm glad nobody else was hearing this. I mean, you know, it's good that, you know, I mean, because I'm a fan too, but it was bad.
You need to go to Booth Anonymous.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually when I first came here, because actually I did end up winning. You were doing a contest for the 1,000th like on one of your pages.
Yeah.
I actually ended up winning that contest. It was me and my wife, and got an autographed DVD from you guys.
Oh, very cool.
And that was like one of the first things when we first got together. It was like, okay, now you're going to watch Children of the Grave. And she's not really into this stuff, so she puts up with it for me. But I was like, and then we'll do the Haunted Boy, and then we'll do the, and it's just been like, that was.
When Christopher and I first got together, I said, okay, now you have to realize how big of a fan I am of Avenged Sevenfold. So now I will make you listen to every single CD continuously for the next 2 years until you either like them or kick me out.
I kind of had the same thing with Avenged Sevenfold and Disturbed.
Yeah.
Those are like my top two.
And Perfect Circle. So.
I've just started getting into them, actually.
Oh,
I was a little behind the curve on them.
You are in for a treat, my friend.
Probably one of the best sounding bands live.
And we've seen both bands live, and Perfect Circle is really fantastic live.
Up here, sadly, we don't get a lot of concerts where I'm at.
Yeah, we have to be traveling ourselves to get to the ones we want to see.
As my brother jokes, damn, you moved out there in Egypt past the pyramids. I'm in the extreme northwest corner of British Columbia.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
Yeah.
What part of Canada?
I'm about 150 miles from Alaska.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I played in when I was playing in a band in Canada. I played in Yellowknife. Is it?
Oh, you were all the way up at the Circle.
Yeah, it was pretty.
That sounds terrifying.
It was terrifying. I got off the airplane in a little leather jacket, and people met me in parkers. And I went, "Oh my God!" And it was incredibly cold.
Oh yeah, that's like up at the Arctic Circle. We're a little bit south of it.
Not by-
Yeah, not by much. Like this year's been a good winter. We've only got about 1.5 feet of snow left on the ground. This has been a mild winter. The worst winter since I've been here. We ended up getting about 13 feet in 4 days.
Oh my God, what took you out there?
My wife, she's from here. She's born and raised here.
Oh wow. Wow.
She's
I bet
actually
that was
What town is it called? What
I'm
town
sorry?
is it? Where do you live again?
Kitimat,
Kitimat?
British Columbia. Yeah.
I've heard that. You know, when I was in my early musician days, I traveled all across Canada in a band. So I played all the way through. I can't remember. I mean, I lived in Vancouver and Victoria for a while, and then I traveled all across from to Alberta. I guess I don't probably not say I don't Winnipeg and Calgary and Saskatchewan, and all those places, and a lot of the smaller Indian towns, which were really cool. But I have a lot of good memories back.
That would be Kitimat in a nutshell.
Yeah,
my wife actually is.
I might even play Kitimat. It sounds so familiar. They had all the Native American names, and I can't remember half of them. But it was a cool tour. That was way back when, though. That was before. Because I replaced Brian Adams in Sweeney Todd, and then Brian Adams went to America for a while and did his thing, and then he moved back to Vancouver. But I kind of replaced him and did the whole tour for 2 years, and then I ended up in Los Angeles. Yeah, and then I got into the film business, and then here I am now. So.
Well, I guess we should take a second here, and I'll actually officially start. I have got it all recording. Like I said, I just went on and hit start on this, but I am joined today by Christopher St. Booth and his wife, Rachel Marie Booth. They are really I guess you would say a Renaissance couple, because between them they are, I know Christopher's a songwriter, a producer, a filmographer, a photographer. He works in the film industry, of course, through Spook TV and with the Sci-Fi Channel, doing different specials, doing actual documentaries about different haunted places, as well as scripted films. Of course, Rachel is a model and an actress. I believe you do also a jewelry designer line and a clothing line.
Yes, I do a little bit of everything. I've even started co-producing with Phil and Christopher on the new film.
Oh, so there is a new one coming out.
Yes, there is a new film coming out. It's called The Attached, and we're actually trying to wrap up the filming this year. We had started it all last year, and we showed a little teaser at a couple of big conventions near the end of, I guess, this year. And then last year. Now we're this year, because we started this year. We're going ahead to wrap it all up now.
So with it, if you can say, what exactly is it going to be about? I mean, attached, you would automatically think some kind of a spiritual attachment or whatever.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's basically it. It's about the concepts of be careful what you bring home or what follows you home, and that could be from anywhere going to a place that has a lot of sort of energy of kinds, residual hauntings or whatever, was a haunted place, asylum, whatever, to the point of, something that maybe have some kind of a linger energy, like from at Goodwill, or something you pick up on the side of the road that somebody threw away, that possibly some kind of energy is fused itself to it. And the concept of the attachments is you just don't really know what you're bringing into your house and what sort of energy you bring in, and then it can change things, sometimes even for the better. So we started basically doing all kinds of personal interviews with people that had what they feel have brought home or followed them home, as including we filled our house with haunted items that we had bought off of several antique places, people, and eBay, and including old wheelchairs, dolls, Nazi sort of kind of, paraphernalia, all kinds of stuff like that. And basically just finding out what energy is really lingering. For instance, when we brought the wheelchair home, we actually started hearing, which is kind of crazy, somebody walking around the house after we brought this old wheelchair home. It was from, I think it's like 1910 wheelchair. That kind of stuff, and the dolls move, and all kinds of crazy stuff. We had bought a lot of, over 115-year-old type dolls. And we just got into a whole story about, the energy that lingers with attachments.
Oh, wow. And this was this in your home that you brought some of this stuff in, like doing kind of a museum?
All the stuff we have for the attachment is in our house, and we've had multiple light bulbs that shouldn't have been able to be reached at all being unscrewed, and we thought our light bulbs kept going out, and we'd go to change the light bulb and it was unscrewed. I mean, these are the things that we deal with on a daily basis.
Oh, wow. That is definitely unusual.
Oh, well, the one we actually, which we were very proud to actually be returning to, is a place called, have you guys heard of St. Albans Sanatorium?
Yes, I have.
Okay, we're going back there again, but we've actually spent quite a bit of last year and a little bit of the year before there filming. And it's a very scary place. It has a lot of mixed energies, being it from a boys' school to an asylum to a sanatorium and all kinds of places. But we actually picked up an incredible story there, and it was a very serious attachment. And this one is actually a very personable attachment. It happened to a couple of people that we knew that were on our team, and also people that were not on our team, as well as it actually happened to Rachel, very, very heavy duty, as well as it happened to me. And that's one of actually the centers of the story. Her name is Rebecca, and she had been known to be a patient there in the around the 50s, I believe. And she had got pregnated, and she had a miscarriage, and she had hidden the baby inside the wall of the sanatorium, and they found it and took it away from her. And with that sort of just incredible amount of depression, she hung herself in the bathroom. And when we had went down there, we actually uncovered a lot of the evidence and paranormal evidence, as well as the archival historian footage that led to an incredible attachment that happened to Rachel.
Oh, wow. Now,
Let's set up. Good setup here. I don't know how to lead in after that.
Yeah, well, I'd say, had you had anything like that happen before, Rachel?
I honestly, I've had encounters with spirits. I've seen things before, but not on the level that I experienced when we went to St. Albans. It was it escalated. It was very interesting. The first experience actually started with Christopher. We were in one of the isolation cells in the basement, which this place has real isolation cells. It's not just like a closet, that they threw people in and locked them in there. These were real isolation cells that didn't have handles on the inside. The windows were barred. I mean, these were serious rooms.
Yeah, I think they have like 15 of them.
Yeah.
And they're really, truly incredibly charismatic because we spent a lot of time filming in them. We actually had hired a lot of the local children down there who donated their time to actually come in and be part of our recreations of playing asylum children. Of course, they go, let me be locked in there. So we did put them in there, but of course we did have adults inside with them. But we did a whole, not only did we obviously do the evidence paranormal investigation, we did a lot of reenactments that of what had happened there. And on the reenactments, actually got a lot of the evidence. So you can see in a lot of the reenactments evidence occurring. So actually this project will have the reenactments showing the evidence. So it's kind of cool. It's sort of an angle where you're there filming a part of a reenactment, but paranormal activity happens while you're filming. Kind of like the way Spooked was. That's how Spooked was born. It's kind of sort of a Waverly Sanatorium trivia, but this is actually St. Albans.
Yeah. Much bigger than Waverly Hills, actually. It's actually huge, but they kept adding on to it, which is...
Well, the thing about this place, so it actually has an interior where Waverly Hills Sanatorium, unfortunately, is, it's an incredible place, but it doesn't really have an interior. It's kind of all gutted now and it's being rebuilt, and, it's just... It's kind of like a parking garage kind of in the inside. St. Albans Sanatorium has all the walls, furniture, and everything still in it.
And even the tubs where they did the hydrotherapy, I mean, that's just intense. But one of the rooms, the isolation rooms, we were doing an investigation, and Christopher felt somebody jump on him, and he couldn't get this feeling off, like, this person would not get off of him, and he was actually running in a circle saying, please get off of me, you aren't coming home with me. And after that, things kind of got more intense. Then we did another investigation in that same room, and I was attacked by somebody. I was actually physically unable to move. I had two people holding me up because they said it felt like somebody had jumped on my shoulders and was holding me down. And then after that, I had something follow me home. And then I started having dreams about people that had died in, I don't know if it's just the sanatorium or other places, but the thing that followed me home was giving me dreams about people that were dying, but I was the person in each of the dreams. It was intense. It was like first person. And then after that, there was one of the stories actually lined up with Rebecca's story about killing herself. So when we went back to do the recreation of the girl Rebecca that lost her baby, the energy in the room was so intense. It was like actually being there and seeing it when it happened. I mean, we had lighting people from Hollywood that were there doing the lighting, and they said they didn't believe in this stuff. They've never experienced this stuff, and they were crying because you could feel the energy and her experience just in that moment. I don't even know how to explain it. The words just don't really come out correctly.
You kind of felt her depression and her despair, I guess would be a way of describing it.
And it was almost in a way that she was happy that we were telling her story so nobody else would have to go through that.
Yeah, she found out. Yeah, that's exactly what it was to her. Also, what was a really beautiful thing, we had a teaser of it at Scarefest last year, and it hit all the marks that we wanted it to, most of the emotion level of it. But what we realized, the concept of first of all, having a terrible miscarriage, possibly being raped, that concept, or having someone that didn't want anything to do with the father. We don't really know what happened, whether it was a rape or someone that just said, hey, it was a doctor maybe that did it. We don't really know that part of it. But being basically a woman feeling abandoned, in a terrible place, and then losing the baby, obviously deciding to keep the baby and then losing the baby, and then having it, even the dignity of not being able to bury it being taken away from you. It was such a tremendous tragedy that we found that it was just more than just Rebecca's story. It actually connected to a lot of what all ages of women are going through and have gone through. So it became a bigger and a deeper story. But what I guess it really overly backs it up is the paranormal evidence that goes and shows that we had caught, that shows the baby walking around, and not walking around, but sort of haunting inside the closet where she had hidden it in an inside closet in the wall. And I guess the energy, what I meant is kind of like walking around, dwelling around, and just the evidence of showing Rebecca hanging herself, which is we reenacted it in the film, and it's so lifelike that it just breaks your heart. But I think we needed it to be that powerful, because the only way you're ever going to change something, make a dent, is do a very powerful story. So it turned out, incredibly emotionally fabulous. So we look very forward to finish it this year.
Well, like I said, like I was telling you guys before I did the official introduction, that I did start out this as a fan of yours, and really, it is the power. I mean, when you see a lot of the paranormal documentary type shows, they basically get on there and they get their gadgets out and they do the stuff, and they'll like do a little cut scene, and somebody will stand there and tell you a story. What drew me to you separately from all of that was the fact, actually I got started on, a little bit late, I got started on Children of the Grave. When you started dealing with the orphans and talking about the orphan trains and the things like that, I was very close to not existing, because my grandfather actually was an orphan close to those times.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm sitting there and I'm hearing like the interviews, and you're telling the stories about what had happened, and the ways that it's shown and the pictures and all of this, in the back of my mind, I'm hearing my grandfather talk about, well, when I was young, that they didn't know if, it was hard to get adopted. So when I was like 4, they would put me on a train with a return ticket and my name put on my jacket, and they would send me across the country. If the people wanted me, they just kept me. If they didn't want me, they put me back on the train, handed the conductor the ticket, and I came back.
Exactly. And the stories that we have just, had told in Children of the Grave, that's just one of the cities and states,
yeah,
in the world, so to speak. And it was like, it happens so all over the world, and numerous more times than what we were able to tell. We're looking to tell the same sort of depth in the story of attachments. Basically, where do they call you home? Not necessarily to torment you, maybe just to try to go away, and then,
closure.
Yeah, to create closure, looking for somebody that... It's funny, because when you do paranormal, I mean, the business that you're in is, when you walk into, I think you're sized up pretty quickly. Whether you're a real person or a fake person, you're out to exploit, or you're, for ulterior motives, or you're there to help, really truly create. And, I mean, paranormal investigations really at the beginning was to create, was to help. I mean, way back, I have a book which is fascinating, that starts in the late 18th century, and it talks about ghost hunting. And it's just incredible, obviously how far the technical side of ghost hunting has gone, but the compassion side has kind of fallen apart. And you do have people that is like call themselves psychics, and they're out there to try and help, but do they really help, or is it just done on camera, for the television show? We like to capture emotions in our shows and hope that telling their stories just creates closure.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's one of the, like you said, actually the compassion side is pretty much all but gone in paranormal investigation, because more and more people have turned either, I hate to say that they've got influenced by a lot of what they've seen on TV, and everybody gets the dollar signs in their eyes. Oh, this is going to be cool. We get to go run around in this, you know, haunted place, and we're going to get rich on YouTube, you know. Mm-hmm. But they seem to forget that whatever energy you're dealing with, whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it a ghost, you want to call it, you know, whatever it is, because we don't know exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. It was at one time a person. To them, you know, to that energy, it still is a person. You know, so like even when I do a simple EVP session, I sit down and I do the EVP session exactly like I'm talking to you now. I introduce myself. I say, how are you doing? Can you say hello to me? Can you tell me your name? You know, because I talk to them. Would you want someone sitting in there and just yelling at you, answer me, tell me your name? You know, it's not an interrogation. You gotta talk to the people. It's, well, like I said, whatever energy is there, we don't understand it. We can't categorize it. We can't put it into a box, but it's still a person, so to speak. And that compassion is gone. You get the people, they don't care about the history of it. They don't care about the story. They don't care about, you know, what happened there. They just want to, like I said, they just want to go out there yelling at a spirit box and make $1 million on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really, I mean, I get that. And that's, I think, like any business, and as you can tell, with all the craziness on the fake news just going around nowadays, it's really a hard point to believe in anything you watch. And that's what ghost hunting, I guess, gotten into. I think that, you know, a real paranormal investigation is a lot of weight. When we go film something, we film for weeks. So, you know, we don't capture everything. I mean, we have been lucky to capture, like, I know that when we did Waverly Hills and even the house in Haunted Boy, things happen pretty quickly in those places. But we have been to a lot of places, you know, we're not, and, you know, you just go ahead and tell the history, and then it's like when you're not looking for it, it happens. And when you are looking for it, it seems to shy away.
Like we do Ashmore Estates quite a bit. And, you know, sometimes we'll have really good nights, and sometimes we'll have nights when there's not a lot of activity, but, you know, some people will get, you know, an EVP, and they'll, you know, some people get upset. They're like, all I got was a stupid EVP. And you're like, really? You got an EVP? That's amazing. And people they take that for granted. Like, they're waiting for something to pop out and say boo and like really see it, but they're taking those small things for granted. But on top of that, the last time we went there, there was a group of me and there were some women and a couple guys in this one room, and nothing was happening. And we're like, okay, we're just, you know, we're going to head into a different room. All of the guys had left, and then activity had started. And it was really interesting that the activity was a female who had lost a child. And we didn't understand why all of a sudden, after the guys had left, why she would present herself to us. And we all saw, like, it was almost like we had all seen an image of her being attacked by a man. And that's why she didn't want to present herself in front of the males. So sometimes guys go in there, you know, and act all masculine when really they need to be more sensitive, because there may be some women that don't want to communicate with men because they've been hurt by men. And likewise with men not wanting to talk to women because they don't respect women or they don't have that connection.
I think that the true thing about it is, it doesn't take a brain scientist to know that nobody's going to talk to you if you're not sensitive. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know why people who think that they don't believe in ghosts at all can walk into a haunted place and expect to even find a ghost. because there was absolutely no belief system there in any way. There's absolutely no energy that supports that you even give a shit about who you're helping. You've got to go in there, and I think you're really sized up. It's kind of like the old saying, God knows I'm good. You know, you don't have to please anybody else but that, because, you know, it's that connection with the universe that they truly know that you're not, you know, a fraudster, so to speak, that you are a real person and you're trying to do some good. And that's all you need when you're walking into those places, because that's what they want, you know, and the bad energy is created from bad people.
Or people that can't even talk to humans, and they go in and try and talking to dead people. Like, I can't talk to my neighbor and be pleasant.
But you go to the celebrity paranormal people, and you meet them on the circuit, as we do. And some of them, you know, are doing very well. I won't mention names. And you go up to them and say hi, and they can't even give you the time of day. They can't even talk to you. And then you just want to say, how can you talk to spirits when you can't even talk to humans?
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine who that is.
Yeah, I got a few names that could probably fit that bill. Just off of the, like I said, we've been doing this show in one form or another for about 11 years now. So we've had a lot of them come through, and believe me, some of the messages, and we'll keep it PC and not give, but like some of the, we dealt with one person in particular that actually I was the original host, and Star took over from me, and now I've taken back over. But when she was hosting it, she got a letter from a guy. No one had ever heard of him at the time. He was completely unknown. He sends her a email with the only questions he will answer during the interview. And one of the questions, the one that set her off, was why women should not do paranormal investigation because they are the weaker sex and more susceptible to demonic possession.
Oh my God.
She ate him up.
Yeah. Well,
that holds no water, especially in today's age now. It's all about being sensitive anyway.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. And one of the other ones that set her off was the fact that it said that, all other forms of religion help promote demonic activity, and only Christianity is right. And I actually messaged the guy, and I'm like, when I told him you were no longer welcome on the show, because Star told him this, he would not accept it from her. Oh, that's okay, honey. We're going to go on and do the interview. So I actually had to step in and say, no, you are not going to do this interview. You are not welcome on this show. One of the, I was like, you know, you realize that in these questions that you sent, first off, you sent them to a pagan feminist.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, so let's see exactly how well the whole Christianity thing and the women being the weaker sex went over with her. She's a pagan feminist. So, yeah. She didn't even have to call me. I was in Canada by this time. She didn't even have to call me. She was still in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I'm from. I could hear her yelling here in Kitimat from Wilmington. She was, like I said, she had completely lost it.
The smoke signals gave it away, huh?
Yeah, she just started.
She was so mad. Oh, she was jumping up and down.
Oh yeah, that was like I said. And
I don't blame her. That's ridiculous.
You know, it's like you said. You know, how are they expecting to go into any place? And it's funny. He's one of those that always finds negative energy everywhere he goes. Well, no kidding. You know, you get what you put out. He walks in giving off negative energy. These things, you know, this energy fills him, and they're like, "Well, we don't want him around here. He needs to go away." It's just the same as if he walked into someone's house and started acting like that. You would be looking at him like, listen, you need to get out or I'm going to call the police. Well, they can't pick up the phone and call 911. So their only defense is something like that. Make them feel uncomfortable, make them feel unwelcome.
I agree.
You know, if he's going in with negativity, the negative energies in a building will find him. So of course he's going to find only negative energy. That's what attracts. Negativity attracts negativity.
Exactly. And that's the true dealing with paranormal or just in life in general. Negative people attract negative people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you, like I said, you get back what you put out. And when you put out that kind of thing to you, you're going to attract that thing back. And it's the same dealing with the paranormal. It isn't just walking down the street in life. You can walk past somebody with a big smile on your face. Hi, how you doing? Even if they're having a bad day, they're most likely at least going to acknowledge you. Or if you look at them, F off and go away, they're going to be the same way.
Yeah. I mean, you can't sit in a circle trying to do an EVP session if nobody wants to ask any questions and everybody's acting like, a wet cloth on fire. Nobody wants to talk to somebody like that.
That's very true.
A wet cloth on fire.
Yeah, putting it out, man.
That's a nice visual.
It is, though. I mean, oh, come on. You can't say you've never been in an investigation with a wet cloth and you're like, really?
And that was on fire?
No, they're putting out the fire,
No, I for one like that analogy. I think I'll have to keep with that because I have been on a couple of places with us where it's just like, come on, really. There is one member that he has a tendency to fall asleep.
Oh gosh.
And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and you know what? What's that EVP? It's the fucking snoring.
I've actually had that before.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Exactly.
Yeah, it gets me, man. If you're not out to try and communicate with people, why even do the investigation? Why are you even there? If you don't want to ask any questions, if you're not curious, then why are you there? To watch other people? Well, that's just kind of, a damn cloth.
Exactly.
The EVP is probably one of the things that is the most fascinating for me because it's sort of, it's kind of instantaneous. I mean, if you ask a series of questions and you play it back, you can hear, if there's one there, you can hear it right then, or if you wait, and do it later, but you're going to get it if it's there. And we've done a lot of work with EVP, a lot of different techniques for doing it and crazy ideas. I mean, we've tried all kinds of stuff just to see if it would work, because we don't actually know what causes it or the mechanism of action of how it works, of what makes it start,
Exactly.
And I know, and you probably guys have too, like a static discharge before your EVP on your recorder.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a capacitor releasing, like there'll be we've heard the static pops and then you'll get a voice or whatever. And
almost like a rhythmic alien tone.
Yeah, we've looked at that. I mean, we even tried broadcasting specific frequencies out into a room to see if it would cause more or less EVP activity, just to see if it would work. Because the way we look at it is because we don't know what it is, and because the same old way of doing it seems to get the same old results. But why not try something else? It can't hurt anything, So, and I mean, I'm crazy anyway, so I may as well give it a shot. Why just so people think I'm nuts? I mean, hell, I still use film. So, people say, "Where's your camera?" It's right here. Well, can I see the pictures? Well, when I develop them, you can. But, so, we try lots of stuff, but I think that's what you have to do, and you have to be respectful and not put yourself into a corner so much as what's going to work and what's not, because we don't know.
Well, and I feel like a lot of these spirits have social anxieties. They're around for a reason. They haven't accepted or they don't understand why they're there. So they have to have some kind of social anxiety. So when people are yelling at them and freaking out because they're not getting an answer, that's going to make them even, not want to talk to people even more, And,
we really don't know. I mean, we think we know, but perhaps religion notwithstanding, that it's just the next phase in the human cycle after you pass. And we don't know why that the ones that are here. I mean, some have unfinished business, things they don't know they're dead, things like that. But how that actually happens, or why that happens to some people and not everybody,
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible that it's just some phase of the evolution of the spirit after you die. But we don't know that for sure. So, like you always, like we've been saying, treat them the same way after they're dead as you would before, and you should be all right.
It's all about respect. That's exactly what it's always about. And when it loses the respect is when it gets silly. That's not anymore.
And and we've been known to call BS on people. I mean, if we find somebody faking evidence, they've had it. I mean, we'll call them in a minute. Because, you have to also have respect for the field that you're in, because the first time you do something like that, you make everybody look bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all get kind of lumped together.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help.
Those crazy Christians or the crazy people from their religions, once they go off and go crazy, all of them are like that, right?
Yeah. Once you go radicalized or whatever, then they're all radicals as far as everybody thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And, so.
It was funny when the group I'm with now, actually, the members here, they were completely, I'm training them. They had no experience with this whatsoever. And I actually told them, it was funny. We were doing a presentation at a heritage park in a town near here, Terrace, British Columbia. And we were trying to get some press going for it and everything, get into the newspaper. And one of the members has contacts in the paper. So they were like, oh, sure, I'll see about running a story about you guys. And he comes back and he goes, sorry, I can't run the story. And he's like, well, why not? And he goes, just between you and me, the owner thinks you're devil worshippers.
Oh my God.
He's really Christian and he thinks you're devil worshippers. And I was like, well, congratulations, guys. Today you have officially become paranormal investigators. You've been called devil worshippers by a radical Christian. And I'm a Christian. I'm an ordained Christian minister. Honestly. So, I mean,
yeah.
I had, there's not, the faith isn't the problem. It's the people that believe the faith in some cases. Yeah. Like I said, it's like you can't be considered a paranormal investigator until you've been called a devil worshiper by a radical Christian. It's just, you can't do it. It doesn't work that way.
I took 2 years of Bible college, so I completely understand. I know the Bible myself, and when people come up to me and quote me the Old Testament, I laugh at them. I'm like, well, you're living wrong.
I've actually done that with a person. I was like, you do realize pretty much the New Testament completely contradicts the Old Testament, right? And I was like, if you find,
right?
It depends on and it also depends on the translation that you find, because actually the King James Bible was created because the King of England wanted it rewritten so it would be simple enough for the stupidest person in the world, as he referred to the commoners, to understand it.
Yep.
So you're really, you bring a King James Bible at me, I automatically look at you and go, no. You're not going to bring me something that has literally was written to be dumbed down.
If you really want to go for the stretch, try the Message.
That's always...
That's pretty much simplified.
Yeah. Now, I want to there's one other of your documentaries I kind of wanted to touch on before we get into besides the attached, what you guys are doing now, because like I said, I know there's a lot of a lot of interesting stuff, because I do follow you guys on Facebook, and it's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And I wanted to kind of get all of it in, and I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I did want to talk about, another one that kind of hit close to home for me, especially with my wife. As I was telling you before, my wife is a Haisla First Nation out of Kitimat, British Columbia. And you guys did the documentary Soul Catchers, and really going into like the residential schools and stuff like that. You know, for one, I knew they had existed, but I thought that was kind of like an ancient history, a past. But in Canada, the last residential school closed in, I believe it was 1993. So like my wife actually went to what they called a residential day school. This was, they were ran by the churches ran by the same people, had the same teachers and everything. The only difference was she got to go home at night, where they didn't do the roundup that they had done in the past, where they would literally have armed military people come into your house, pick your kids up, and walk off with them. If you were lucky. If not, they would just actually park, lure the kids there, load them up, and leave, and you wouldn't know.
Wow.
That's what they did in Canada.
Oh my gosh.
Not to mention the horrific experiments that they were doing, the forms of the genocide, but also the experiments in the hospitals, or they were doing to the Native Americans. Is absolutely terrible. Canada is, unfortunately, it's some of the worst, as well as parts of America too. But Canada really has some incredible, terrible tragedies going on. We touched a lot of that when we're doing Soul Catch. Soul Catch, I have to say, was one of the most rewarding projects. Not necessarily as far as it never got the distribution it should have gotten, maybe because of subject matter, but it was definitely one of the most rewarding storytellings that we were gifted to be able to do, mostly because we let the elders tell the stories, and also I remember when we released it, we had gotten over 1,000 emails from the tribes and the elders saying, "Thank you for giving us a voice," because we didn't edit anything out. It was, kill the Indian, save the man was the concept back then, and I thought it was atrocious, and it was breaking my heart even telling the story on the screen. And if you've seen Soul Catch, you'll know some of the testimonials of some of the Native Americans are truly, truly heartbreaking. And unfortunately, that's still going on today in some forms. And it was definitely a fulfilling story that we were able to tell.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was eye-opening. I mean, even if you take the paranormal part out of it, there's so much of that history. I mean, literally when I first met Charmaine, my wife, she was telling me about the stuff that went on with residential schools, and I was kind of like, yeah, but that was way back, I was like, and she's like, no, my father was in one. I went to a residential day school. They would beat children. They would molest children. I have a friend here in the village, actually, that he talked about. He was beaten for trying to hug his sister.
Oh my gosh.
They were literally passing in a hallway and saw each other. It was the first time they'd seen each other in a while. He tried to hug her, and this of course was done by the Catholic Church and I think it was the First Church of Christ and of course the government of Canada. And it's like literally he was grabbed by the collar of his shirt, drug into a room and beaten. He was not allowed to acknowledge his family. And it's like you said, it was the kill the Indian, save the man. That was the big thing here. That's the language is almost completely gone. There's only, I think, 3 or 4 true native speakers of the Haisla language that, where the Haisla language was their first language, and then they learned English, left.
Yeah, it was terrible, and I think what broke my heart is when I went. We were invited to the Arapaho Apache Reservation in Oklahoma, of course, in Oklahoma, the Trails of Tears, and we went there to, tell this great story. But I felt a lot of heartbreak and a lot of spirit broken there. You grow up. I mean, I've seen. I mean, living in Canada too, I've seen a lot of prejudice, racist things going on, and a lot of poverty and alcoholism and all that kind of stuff amongst the Native Americans. But it's incredible. You grow up and you see the beautiful songs that they would sing, dance to, and the way they dressed was like, spirit warriors. And then to actually witness some of the brokenness that still exists today, being forced to live in trailers and being forced to be completely poverty-stricken and being controlled. It's hard to see that spirit broken.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's why I wanted to tell the story of the proud Indian, so to speak, and not the broken one. And it's still very heartbreaking. You almost wanted to say, you need to, have faith again and bring this up. And I know that's what we need to do. So we did what we could to help tell that story. I'd like to tell it again. If we were given the chance to continue in telling it, because it could, obviously what's going on in the news, it could be continued, so it could be in a continuing format.
Well,
but
honestly, if you ever want to come north of the border, give me a call.
Yeah.
I can help you, because especially in British Columbia, because another part of the team or another group that I work with, me and Michael are the historical researchers of the Vancouver Paranormal Society, which is actually the oldest paranormal society, I believe, in North America.
Wow.
And it's actually, I think, the only one recognized by British Columbia. The government itself recognizes it for all historical sites. And even through PNBC, I've actually had invitations to go into residential schools. Ask if we were interested in going to do investigations and to get into the stories there.
Well, Canada has some incredible structures and some incredible haunted history. And I've always wanted to help some of the sanatoriums and asylums and of course, the Indian boarding schools. All that is absolutely, truly incredible. Being a lot older than America in some forms, It's definitely a lot of stories that could be told there. But I do appreciate you recognizing Soulcatcher. It's a beautiful story. I love the soundtrack. I was able to incorporate. I don't know if you knew this, Joe, but I was able to incorporate the real ghost dance in there. That was actually recorded on the Edison's, the very first form of recording. They recorded it, and I was able to get a copy of it. So I actually put that song in Soulcatcher. So the original ghost dance that was sung at the Wounded Knee Massacre, which was very sad. I had put that song in there, and as well as the chanting and the flutes are by real Native Americans. So, of course, I did the chords, the pads, drums and stuff, but not all the drums, but a lot of the drums. So it was beautiful creating that soundtrack, and it's still one of my favorite spiritual getaways is when I listen to that soundtrack, because I hear the spirits of what we were, telling in that story called through.
Well, so much in music really does control emotions. And like I said, even that was what has always drawn me to your films, is there was more a soul to them than just out there telling the story. Here it is, listen to this. This is what I recorded, kind of thing. And the music really does make a lot of the difference, because it's like I said, music touches you on a level that something that you see just cannot do.
Well, I appreciate that. I really, appreciate it when someone can feel the soul and the spirit of how we do our things. I know that we do our things a lot different and could be classified as not being, as commercial. We're not like Taylor Swift. We're more like maybe Nine Inch Nails or something. But I do appreciate when people get that, because I've always wanted, tell the story the way Pink Floyd kind of adapted to me. When Pink Floyd had a lot of, narration and some talking in it. The movie The Wall was a very strong, inspired movie that inspired us. But I love it when people get that. And it's like a lot of the times the music is written first before the movie, the film, the project is edited. And actually the project is edited to the music, almost a documentary in form of a music video, so that it flows poetically. It flows like that. It doesn't flow like some kind of a social studies class, which I personally could not get into at school. It was too technical, and I wanted to get out. But we try to do it poetically, and I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, it's like I said, especially with that one, even if you take the scenography and the music that mixes in it, the story that you take the paranormal side of it, it's actually a really great watch. I have my Booth Brothers collection. I'm still working on some of the other ones, but that one I have, Children of the Grave, The Haunted Boy, and of course the Unseen, your kind of best of, which I won actually from you on Facebook. I won it off of it. But, so that, that's one of the, like I said, the music is something that it does match up well, and it really, it touches you on a different level. It's even not even with Hollywood movies where they just kind of throw the score in to try, but like I said, music touches you deeper than anything you'll ever see, and your music fits in great with them. And it's all part of the experience.
Well, we're actually sitting right now talking to you from the studio, which is, wall-to-wall instruments, pianos, keyboards.
I'm sitting on a piano right now.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. And what a pretty mark you're leaving on it.
Oh, my.
But I think music is, to me, it's what gets me through anything. I can't stand it anymore, and I just go in the studio, close the door, and start playing some music, or writing some, and then I seem to be balanced, I suppose. So it's a very big part of what we do, and we've been musicians since, we were, 4. It seems like when we were 4, and we were in Canada, and we were in those bands, Sweeney Todd, and the different rock and roll bands that did actually very well. I don't know if you knew this, but I was kind of a rock star when I was 18, because I was asked to join a very successful band called Sweeney Todd when I was 18. And that had a guy named Nick Gilder in it, which was signed in America, and he did Hot Child in the City. Of course, Roxy Roller being a very big song in Canada. I'm sure you know the song Roxy Roller.
Yeah.
And then Bryan Adams took Nick Gilder's place. Then Bryan Adams was actually fired from Sweeney Todd, and he went solo and became the Bryan Adams that Canada all knows and America all knows. A very successful, very talented man. And then, of course, I replaced Bryan Adams. And then that, my tour led me to America at that point, where I started in the film business, because I felt music was it was an important part of my life, but I felt I wanted to do other things as well, as express myself visually. But at the same time, I could never get rid of the musical side. So I still do all the music to our projects as well as other people's projects. So.
Now, speaking of the visual part of it, because actually you are an exceptional photographer, and most of your pictures, especially as lately, have included your wife as the model, which I can see why she would not be very difficult to take a picture of. No, nothing, just not wanting to get out of line here, but I'm sure she's quite easy to take a picture of. And so
she's very photogenic indeed. She is very photogenic. I think that is, a blessing for any kind of photographer to have someone that's photogenic. And when you are photogenic, you should really utilize that talent because there's a reason for it. There are people that look good on the camera but don't look good in person. There are people that really look good in person but don't look good on the camera. Rachel is blessed to have both. He looks good off and on, but at the same time,
Thanks, dear.
that's a good thing.
I know.
It's a great thing. But thank you very much. It's just another, in our studio we have like the editing for films and photography, and then you turn around and then there's the music side of it. I'll have to send you a picture when we get done so you'll see what I'm talking about. And then on the other side we have all the recording equipment, and on the other side we have all the cameras that we use to shoot. Because I've been also getting into shooting video as well as photography. Phil usually does that part of it. But I just think it's because I'm bored, of doing the music for a while. So then I'll turn to photography, then I get bored of that. And then we'll write a couple of books.
So we sure do have ADHD.
I know. And then I get bored of writing books, and then I go to video editing, and I get bored of that and go back to music, So it's kind of like that.
Well, I can understand that. I'm the same way. I'm an active researcher with one team. I'm a historical researcher with another team. I'm a consultant with a couple of other teams. I host a podcast and I produce 10 podcasts. I can understand how it's like, I don't know, your brain just kind of goes into this mode where it's got to have something to do. And that's besides being a computer tech. I'm also a Microsoft certified computer tech. I was trained by Microsoft to work on computers and teach and tutor and all of this stuff, which right now I can't even figure out Windows 10 99% of the time. So that degree is pretty much
useless. Even get me started.
We've done whole episodes ranting against Windows 10.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's what artists do. I mean, it's funny because I'm sure you guys have seen some of these people that put up this post on social media and saying that I'm done with paranormal. It didn't work out for me, or I'm done as an artist. I can't make any money doing it. And I'm just going like, if you truly are a real artist, you end up doing it whether you get paid for it or not. If you truly are if you truly are connected see, the paranormal gets you. Once you get a real experience, like happened to us when we did Waverly Hill Sanatorium, Death Tunnel Spooks, you can't go back. Because once you've been invited and you truly have accepted the invitation, then if you're true soul, it sticks to you. But if you're just faking it and you're just riding along, then you can walk away from it. But these people that say I'm done with it, then you were never involved in it from the beginning, because you can't throw away what you truly love and what you feel that you're destined to. And if you're doing it for money, and that it always cracks me up when these people say they're going to quit. Well, then you should quit because you weren't meant for it.
Well, I did my first paranormal investigation / whatever over 20 years ago for a friend of mine who had trouble in her house. Back before, I didn't even have a computer. There were no teams to call, I had to go to the library and research stuff and figure stuff out and kind of play it as I went along because there wasn't anybody to call.
Yeah.
And, and the experience that I had, frankly, scared the hell out of me, but it was scaring her every day. Her and her husband, they had 2 houses and both of them were having activity. And so I did what I did, and I'm also an ordained minister. I ended up blessing the houses and everything, and it finally stuff calmed down, but I can't take credit for it because, if anybody didn't know what they were doing more at the time, it was probably me because there just wasn't the information there that told you how to do it. I read everything I could find. I asked people stuff and whatever, but when you stay in for something, like you guys, for the long haul, you don't do it for money because most of the time there's no money in it.
No.
You know,
I mean, we do try to get, we try to make out back what we put into it, obviously, because it is a business in what we do, because we're selling it to the networks. But at the same time, there's no big money in it, in any way. They never will.
Yeah, and because you look around and you're seeing, like right now, I'm sitting at my workbench doing my electronic stuff and looking at gear and everything else, and you have to buy that stuff, and there's no return on that investment because you don't charge for what you do when you go to investigate somebody's house or something like that. So it's not like, oh, well, I'll buy this piece of equipment that I'll charge some poor guy that's got a haunting going on to cover it. It doesn't work that way. So, unless you do it just because you want to help people, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, that's the beautiful about it. If you can get in the position to not have to work, that you can afford to do it and then put it in. It has I love doing it personally. I mean, there was a time that we actually backed away from some of the recent investigations because we needed a break. But so we were doing a couple of events and I fell back in love with it. I mean, especially when the activity became very gnarly cool. You know what I mean? It was really wow. And I don't know where you can get that. To be honest with you guys, you can't get that kind of adrenaline from anything.
I don't know.
When you go inside an asylum and there's 15 open isolation cells and you start seeing something crawling or you feel this energy or you see the doors closing and you get an incredible EVP or even the spirit box says something incredibly with incredible diction, not something that sounds like a radio, but really, truly, you lock on. When you lock on, and when you don't, you don't. It's Ramble City. But then when you lock on, it's incredible. And that is going like, everybody just goes like, wow. They don't worry about the money they spent or the money they're losing or whatever. They just go like, wow, this is incredible. And there is no other thing you can do that feels that way.
Even the scary stuff, when you get, because everybody said, and there's going to be some point when you do this, and you're going to get the crap scared out of you. I mean, you are. There's going to be something that's going to spook you. It just there's no way around that. But even the scary stuff is cool.
Yeah, that was one thing that that was the lead investigator of the first team I was on. That was the one thing he actually told me that I have passed on to everyone I've talked to. Is he sat down and he's like, "There's one thing I want to tell you. Just get it out of the way, get it up front." This was on the first time I'd ever stepped into a place with him. He's like, "We are walking through a house that I've just sat here and told you all of these ghost stories about. It's the middle of the night. It's dark. Something completely normal is going to absolutely scare the crap out of you. Just accept it. It's going to happen." It's like you're going to walk around on a corner on a person that you didn't know was there and scream like a little girl. Something's going to happen completely normal that is going to scare the crap out of you. And it's like, it's true because you get yourself all worked up hearing all these stories. But as you were saying that the feelings that you get from this stuff, absolutely, you can't get them anywhere else. Cause I know I actually had one maybe 3 weeks ago. We were doing evidence, going over some of the evidence we had collected from another historic house here in Terrace. And we were playing a voice for the curator. It's actually, it's a train station now, but it was originally one of the founders of Terrace's homes. And the basement has been turned into a native art gallery. Mm. And a lot of the artists that there have tragically either, died of alcoholism or some other disease, and they've all died young. Like I believe it was under the age of 50.
Wow.
And we were playing back a voice that we had recorded downstairs from there, and her eyes just jolted open, and she grabbed her ears, and she goes, play it again. And she's like starting to hyperventilate a little, and I'm like, whoa. And then when she looks up, and she's almost got tears in her eyes. That's Richard. Mm. She's like, that's Richard's voice. I know his voice anywhere. That's Richard. So she was actually able, it gives you chills when you know she's sitting there and she listens, because they were extremely close. They were friends. Through the time they worked there and everything, they had become very, very close. And he had one of the more tragic stories. He actually died of stomach cancer. And his art changed when he knew he was going to die. He had went from doing the normal native like sculptures and things like that to what they call transformation art. And basically, it'll look like a normal, like a native mask, but when you open it up inside, it becomes like a devil or a demon.
Interesting.
And he always said that his art represented him with this devil inside of him that was going to kill him. Because he knew he was, they had already told him there was nothing they could do. It was too far along. He was in stage 4 when he found out that he had cancer. So he knew his time was, and his art reflected that change. And so they were, like I said, they were extraordinarily close. And for her to hear him actually singing to us in what I think is the Nishka language, and then actually say, I'm over here. That was one of the other big ones. And for her to actually be able to hear him and say, I've heard him sing that song. I know his voice. When I heard that I'm over here, like I said, it just gave me chills. It was an incredible experience. And she'd always said she knew he was there, because that's where he was happy. He loved working. It was his art studio. He did his carvings. He did paintings. He did everything there. It was his, and he actually spent like most of his final days down there working, because it was released for him. It was his love, and his passion. And then to hear that, like I said, there's no other feeling I've ever had that could compare to that one.
Well,
it's
that's
an amazing
what I
thing.
think, and that's when we always say, this is why I do it. This is why we do it, because of the tenderness, especially when you're dealing with children goes.
Well, on that, it's funny. What was it, a couple of weeks ago, Chris and I were taking a bath, and we were sitting there, and we hear this little girl voice out of nowhere say hello. And we looked at each other, and we're like, Alice isn't here tonight. She was at somebody's house. And we're like, hello? At first we were like, wait a minute, nobody else is in the house right now. What do we do? And we're like, oh, maybe we should just say hello back. And nothing came from it. But that was so interesting that both of us heard it like out loud, and in the house. It was like, okay, well, we knew we weren't alone here.
Yeah. It's very true. You actually become accustomed to I guess you would say, your house spirits. Because we have one here, one that periodically says my name, that everyone in the house has heard it, and they all think it's my wife. All the kids think it's my wife. My wife thinks it's one of the kids. And even Michael actually has heard it on Skype.
Yeah, I was on Skype with him, because we Skype every day, and I heard it call his name, and I thought Charmaine was at home, his wife. I said, did Charmaine come home? He said, no. I said, well, I just heard her call you.
It's like, I did too, but no, she's not here. No, there was nobody here at the time. And the other one is apparently she's a little bit of a music critic, because I'm also fans of a band called Slipknot, and she's not. So if I ever play Slipknot out loud in the house, she turns it off.
That's funny.
Yeah, especially the Heretic Anthem. Hates that song. The opening chorus to that, it never makes it through the opening chords to it. As soon as it starts up, it's the first time it happened. I thought I had it run through a tablet, and I thought, oh, my tablet died. Nope, it's fully charged. It's just paused. Okay, I'll hit the button. Right the day we moved in, actually, I hit the button, start to walk away, it stops again. Every time I hit the button, as soon as I hit the play button, it pauses it. And, you become used to them. I mean, it's like, besides being a music critic, there's nothing harmful or dangerous or bad. She's just our house spirit. That's the only way to describe it.
Sometimes they'll get you off guard, though. There was one night Chris actually loaded a gun and went downstairs because he thought somebody broke in the house. He was walking around.
Yeah, like that would really do anything for the ghosts anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was so much noise going on downstairs, and it just sounded like somebody was walking around the house more than usual. And, it was enough is enough. What's going on down here?
Well, that's actually one for your, as you were talking about earlier with your doing an attachment. When I first started the NightStalker, I built the website and everything that went with it. I built it at Star's house, the other co-founder of all of this. Well, she had her where she lived, the house she lived in at one time had been a plantation. And there was actually a lot of energy attached to the land, of course, dealing with slavery. So one of the spirits in her house was actually that of a slave. And he would follow me home. She didn't live in the greatest of neighborhoods, so I'm walking, and this is like 2:00 in the morning. I'm walking home. I didn't live too far away from her, and I hear feet coming up behind me. So I'm thinking I'm about to get hit. I'm about to get mugged. So I turned around quick on it, and there's nobody there. Well, as I go home and I'm sitting there, I hear somebody walk through my kitchen, walk past me in the living room, back and forth in the hallway, back into the kitchen, back around in a circle. And I'm like, okay, you're going to wake everybody else up here. You need to go home. And then I hear the same footsteps go back into my kitchen, out my back door. I can even hear it on the stairs going down my back porch. And then Star messages me and is like, followed you home, didn't it? What makes you say that? Well, he just walked in the front door.
Was that George?
Yeah, George. I couldn't remember his name to save my life. That was George. When she moved in the house, she actually invited George to come with her. She said she'd either help him like cross over or he was welcome to move with her because George was, as long as he loved it when you talked to him, because you got to imagine he did not have a great life. He was a slave on a plantation in North Carolina. He did not have a very good life. So he's just curious. He walks around with people. He follows them. If you talk to him, like I said, when I said, okay, George, it's getting loud. You need to go home. He'd go home. There was never, it was just that kind of thing with him. He was just curious. And I had no trouble when he'd follow me home. Sometimes I'd go to sleep and he'd still be walking around. He'd just be quieter, or he'd be playing around with something or standing in the kitchen or whatever George did. I don't know after I went to bed.
I wish I had one at home that could do the dishes for me.
I know, right?
Yeah. Run a vacuum. Rent's due at the first of the month.
Anything, just something.
Too bad they can't pay rent.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, it's like rent's due at the first of the month, and your turn for the you can mop the floors and you can vacuum.
And don't eat all the food, okay, guys?
Yeah.
But, we do a lot of EVP work, and I actually had one because my roommate Mark had an EVP that said, "Where's Mark?" And I'm looking behind me because first off, it knew that Mark lived here, and second off, it knew he wasn't home. And that kind of freaks you a little bit because you're like, okay. But it's interesting when that happens.
Well, guys, I don't want to, I know you both are busy, so I'll just kind of turn over. If there's anything else you are wanting to talk about that you are like starting up or anything you wanted to go into as far as the photography or anything like that. And of course, by all means, I forgot to actually write down everywhere that they can find you. So if you could give a list of like the websites, the Facebook pages, those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, basically, the official website is spooktv.com, SPOOKED TV.com. You can find a lot of DVDs and books that we write and produce up there. You can go to Amazon Prime and see some of our films are up there. because we have a couple films on the Sci-Fi Channel still right now. And of course, we're on the road this year, and you can just follow Christopher St. Booth on Facebook or Spook TV on Facebook and get all the dates. We have an incredible art auction that's actually happening this Thursday, which is, I think, a day before this airs, I believe, on the 24th. And you can find that on our Facebook pages. It's our 7th annual Spook TV auction, and we have art, jewelry, custom-made Ouija boards, haunted dolls, even props and stuff from our movies will be up there. And we try to do an auction every 4 months to help support our art and show everybody the cool stuff we're working on, including the art and the photography. So that's happening from January 24th to January 27th. And that's coming up this week. This week, at the end of this week. Yeah. And then right after that, we're doing a birthday ghost hunt, and we're doing it at an old haunted cafe in Winchester, Indiana. And I think there's only 4 tickets left for that. And then we move on to our, filming and tour. And you can find all that information as it keeps changing. We keep adding dates on our Facebook pages. You can look at Rachel Marie Booth on Facebook, or Christopher St. Booth on Facebook.
What's my name?
That's me. And I appreciate everybody's support out there, and thank you guys for being so kind to us. I really appreciate that. And definitely, if I hit Canada, we'll look you up and we'll go.
Don't hit it too hard. That would hurt.
We'll explore some of the incredible asylums that are over in Canada, because I know there's incredible ones out there.
Oh, there sure is. Canada is full of them. And again, I want to thank you both for being on here and taking, like I said, I know you're both really busy, and for taking your time out and being with us here today. Again, this has been just a pleasure for me. Like I said, I've been fans and had to control myself and not fanboy out too much during the whole interview. And again, I wanted to thank you both.
You did good.
Thank you. Believe me, I'm honestly telling you this. I've interviewed, like I said, a ton of people in my career doing this. This was the first interview I was actually nervous for.
You actually had to make notes.
Well, that's always good to make notes.
We don't do shows.
No, I don't do good with notes, actually. I don't.
Okay, then let me ask you: what is your favorite film that we've done?
I think it still has to be The Children of the Grave.
Okay.
Soul Catcher's a very close second. Believe it or not, your stuff is hard to find, especially the Dead Still, and that stuff is harder to find up here in Canada. And the Walmart that I have here, because I know you did an exclusive deal or you had to worked out with Walmart, they are not, we don't get a lot here.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think they struck a North American deal on that one, but you can find all those titles, and we will autograph them for anybody who wants them, but you'll find that all on spooktv.com. We have, everything from Death Tunnel to, the Spooked, The Ghost of Grave Hill Sanatorium has always been a big seller for us. We have that in stock. Children of the Grave is no longer in stock, unfortunately. You can download those titles, so if you go to
that actually is how I ended up. That's
is that you?
I put out because I did actually get Soul Catcher through it, and then I actually got a solid copy of it.
Oh, cool! Yeah, it's Spook TV on demand. So it's spooktv-od.com is our streaming service, and then a lot of them. There's about 4 titles streaming on Amazon Prime right now. Destination America down here in America had bought the rights to Spook, Children of the Grave, The Possessed, and The Exorcist Files. So we were told that we had to pull on unfortunately those aren't available streaming anymore. But we do have the DVD for Exorcist Files so available, and it does come with the diary. We also have a book of the Exorcist Diary if you ever want to read the real diary. So again, all this stuff is on spooktv.com, and you'll find it all there.
And I do want to recommend, just personally, because the copy of the Haunted Boy I have is the one with the actual diary with it. Watching it, then reading the diary, that really, I don't know. That one was kind of like a shocking thing to me, just to be able to actually read the diary and the guy's own words and what was going on and what the things he was witnessing and all of that. That threw a whole other level to it to me. And that's actually the copy of the Haunted Boy I have. It's the one that had the diary with it. Because I know when it first came out, you did one with the diary and one without.
Correct. Yeah, it was called The Haunted Boy when it first came out, and then Family Video and Redbox and iTunes and Hulu got it, and then changed the title to The Exorcist File, and then Destination America bought it, and so all those other ones they couldn't play it anymore, and at that point the diary was not included. But we have a book called The Exorcist Diary that now just has that we sell the book, as well as we have the Children of the Grave book, and we have the Spooked book called The Incurable. So we have books to all the movies too, which goes more into detail what happened, as well as the evidence and also the real journals. And like for instance, we have a book called Angel or Devil, which has the real diaries and journals of what happens if an exorcism doesn't work, including the one to the possessed, which is the Secret Wonder case of reincarnation and possession. So we have a pretty much incredible variety of all these kind of cool cases and books that are available on Amazon as well as I believe it's in Amazon Canada too. Also, yes. You can find all my books on Amazon Canada, but you can also we ship to Canada all the time. So even if anybody wants to be part of the auction, we do ship to Canada too. So there you go.
All right. We'll definitely pass that around up here. And of course, when your auction gets started, I'll share it on the Facebook, on the NightStalker Facebook page and the PNBC page, and try to get some more, I can't even remember what they're called now, bids coming your way. I kept on wanting to call them votes. I don't know why.
Well, we do.
I'm good with that too.
We do pretty good at the auctions, and it's kind of cool, but we do open up a lot of the really cool art as low as $5 bid, so that everybody can, because we know that times are hard. So we let everybody get, a piece of art, basically, because some of them go as low as $5. And it's just fun, and it's also celebrating what we also love to do besides making music and making movies. So it works out for everybody.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, I want to thank you for being on. This has been Christopher St. Booth and Rachel Marie Booth. Again, I want to thank you both for being on and coming on the show. I extend an invitation to you anytime you would like to be back on. Simply message me. I will be glad to have you on anytime. And if you would happen to have something else you'd like to throw into the fire, if you'd like to host a podcast, I have a network for you. And I'll be glad to produce it and everything for you.
I just don't know how much time I have anymore in life, You never know.
We're doing podcasts while writing books at that point.
Yeah. That's thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Joel. God bless you. Happy Martin Luther King's Day, and make sure everybody sticks up for the underdog. That's what it's all about, whether it's paranormal or normal. Get out there and help your friends and neighbors and family. Okay?
Mike is just abnormal, so that's good too.
Yeah. Well, we're all for helping the abnormal as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I need it.
Yeah. Right. Just no dick pics, okay, Michael?
Oh, bye.
All
right. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot for coming on. Bye.
Cheers.